Hey YouTube. Well, I'm here to talk about my favorite show, Queen Sugar, Season 4, Episode 2. Okay, it starts off with Charlie and Ralph Angel discussing. Remember last week, Charlie had asked or instructed Ralph Angel not to read the manuscript before she got there. She wanted to talk to him about it first, maybe walk him through it. Well, he read it and he's hot. Particularly because this woman has written all this stuff about his son, his relationship with his son, his prison term. She's just told way too much. And as well with Charlie. Nova's gone into these people's lives. This is not a memoir. This is more of an expose of the family. Now later on, Nova says, I put some of my stuff in too. I talked about Too Sweet going to jail. Nova. When this whole thing started, it opened up with you being a black activist sleeping with a married white man with children. Then you went to a relationship with a woman. Then you went back to a relationship with another man. You've never been able to make a relationship successful. There's plenty more things for you to discuss other than you sold a little weed. Anyway, Vi walks in on Hollywood at the restaurant. Hollywood is reading the manuscript. He quickly hides it, but Vi knows something's up. She senses that right off the top, right? But so far, Vi is the only one who has not read the manuscript of that family. Oh, and Micha hasn't read it either. And I'm sure at some point, even Davis, Charlie's ex-husband, is going to have quite a bit to say about this book. Okay. Next thing we see, Ralph visits Nova. Now, he is mad. He goes and confronts her. She goes in this thing about how she's just discussing the plight of black family and all this kind of stuff. And he makes the point, which I'm sure we're all making. Why couldn't you tell your story? Why did you have to tell mine? You didn't even talk to me about writing my story. Released into the world. So all of his personal things about Blue, about his parentage. This Blue doesn't even know that's not his father. So now he's going to find out in some book or something he read somewhere or something somebody said in school. So he's extremely hot. He ends up throwing, when she says that they're examples, he gets extremely hot and throws the picture of Charlie and Nova together and breaks it. But it's really whatever's nearest him. Whatever's nearest his hand, he throws and breaks it. Right as they're having this argument, to knock at the door, there's three friends of hers, people who are involved with the publication of the book, or co-workers or whatever. People involved in this setting up this tour, right? And one woman, she says, and you are, now like it's okay to go in somebody else's house and ask them who their guest is. Ask him directly. Whatever. Nova said, oh, that's my brother. And she said, oh, Ralph Angel? Oh, your life is so horrible, so tragic. I feel your pain, kind of thing, right? Last thing he wanted is somebody feeling sorry for him. Because this is what he's anticipating. Anyway, as a reaction, he didn't want people knowing his business or feeling sorry for him. I think his life was tragic. He doesn't go off. Instead, he whispers in Nova's ear, you will not see my son again. You lost that privilege. Right? Okay. Next thing we see is Micha comes home. Michael's been off in Paris in Europe. And he's come home. He's got a different look. He's got a kind of a hip-hop look with dreads or braids. I can't tell which. And you can tell right away that Charlie does not like this look. She wants him to be preppy the way he left. So we're basically watching this kid become a man. I mean, he's in that age. I think when it started, he was like 14 years old or something like that. So he's about to go to college now. So He's a young man. He's got a beard. He's got an Afrocentric hairdo. Clothes are more hip hop. Wait a minute. I missed something. Okay, cut to Ralph does manage to have a good mood in this episode. He's got a good mood because of this girl that he met. This woman, young woman, single mother, their kids know each other. So Ralph likes her. And so he's got a big smile on his face, which just surprised me because he seemed to be in such a funk about this book. As it turns out, this woman is a public defender, which I guess is fine, as long as she's not a prosecutor. He might have more attitude, be a little more standoffish if she was a prosecutor. But they talk. Looks like this is going to be his little girlfriend for the moment. Okay. Nova, who has no friends at this point, she usually her life is around her family. But she looks up at an old friend of hers, the one that used to sell weed for her, because she needs somebody to confide in. So she runs the whole story down about what was going on in the family. Basically, she needs someone to talk to, kind of thing. He thinks she wants to go back in business. That's not why I called you, hon. Kind of thing. All through this, in about 3 scenes, we see this guy coming to town. The guy looks like he's about in his late 60s, around there. My first guess was this was somebody out of unadvised past, because he says he's going to town to visit an old friend who's opening a restaurant. Well, who is that? So, but he's not getting a lot of speaking parts so far. They're showing him as being a nice guy. He's kind of interacting with the townspeople, looking for Vi's restaurant. So actually, I'll jump ahead a little bit. That is Vi's ex-husband, the one who was abusive to her. His big scene comes at the end. Okay. Everybody's on a date. Okay, so even Darla got her little piece. So with Darla, now Darla last week she told Ralph that she had a date, right? She wanted him to take the kid. And this week we see that the guy is the guy from 12-step program. He's been clean 5 years. They're kind of talking about some of the stuff that went on, some of the funny things that went on in the past. And she's saying what a relief it is to actually have someone she could actually talk to and laugh about those things now. See, Darla has been in a position where no one else is an addict in the family. No one else really understands where she was at, what she went through. So it's always a shameful thing to mention anything about her past at all. So now she's met a guy who's got a similar type past, who would understand, who's not going to judge her and hold it against her, right? And so he's been clean 5 years. I think she's clean 2 years. They connect. They go out on a coffee date. When he takes her home, Ralph walks up on them. He sees them kissing, right? The guy wants to come in, and she explains, no, let's slow down just a bit, right? The old days, I would jump right in the sack with you, your fine self, but let's go slower. So Ralph sees all this. He was out seeing his girl, his new love interest, and now him and Darla are having a moment together. And he's asking Darla about this new guy she's seeing. And Darla's saying, I don't think we should talk about that. And she goes on to say, well, if I tell you about who I'm dating, about this guy, then that means you have to tell me about who you're dating. And I just don't think I'm ready for that. And then he said, oh, I ain't ready for it either. He fits that role perfectly. And so they have intimate moment. I mean, they want to support each other, but there hasn't been enough time passed yet to actually want to know about other people, and that time may never come. It's always difficult to see somebody used to love with somebody else. And Charlie has her scene with her boyfriend. Why all these straight people get all these goddamn boyfriends? Everybody got a lover, honey. Everybody but Nova, as usual. Hers are always short-lived. All right, so Charlie's been seeing this doctor. Latin guy. Nice guy. Seems good for her. He seems on her same level. He's a doctor. She's a wealthy businesswoman. And she's inherited, she's not hurting. Anyway, she's telling how she plans to stop this book and it would never see publication. And he asked her simple questions. Like, because she said it's all lies and libel. And he asked her, is it all lies? She doesn't answer that, but her eyes tell it all. The woman, no one is accusing Nova of lying. That her lying in the story is not the issue. Her telling the truth is the issue. People, please forgive all the tapping and the noise and stuff because they're right outside my window now putting up this wire stuff on the building to prepare to put stucco on it. So hopefully I'll be getting light soon. For the moment, I don't know if they're going to start banging in a minute or what. Anyway, back to my story. Okay, so this guy is asking her. He's suggesting that if the story is not libel, it's not libelous, you could end up bringing more attention to the story by fighting this publication. Charlie knows that this woman is not lying, so it gives her food for thought. She may not be able to stop this book. As it turns out, the book is already in publication. Right? Anyway, this guy, they got him he's just a sweetheart. I wonder what happened. What was the other one? What was that dude named the light-skinned dude? I forget. The cowboy. Yeah, he's not come back this season. Okay. Next thing we see is Micha gets into a fight. Micha's out with this girl, Kiki. Him and Kiki are back together. Micha, some white kid bumps into him. They're either at a restaurant or a mall or maybe a party. Anyway, it's not clear to me that the guy bumped into him on purpose. But he says some smart stuff like, he's a teenager. So he said, well, you're taking this Black Panther thing too far or something like that. Something about the Black Panther. And as it turns out, Micha is wearing the same hairstyle as that guy who played Black Panther. The beard, the hair. It does look like it. Anyway, Micha takes it personally. He gets angry with the guy and punches him in his mouth. The guy is with somebody else. The other guy punches Micha in the mouth. They tussle a moment, and then, fortunately, people broke it up. There's no consequences, no cops, nothing like that. But Micha goes to see his Nova, his Aunt Nova. Explains what happened to her. He can talk to her because they are kind of on the same page as far as activism, civil rights, things like that. So Nova understands. And at the end of that conversation, she gives him her first hard copy of her book. Right? Yeah. Yeah, so the book is already in hard copy. Okay. When he goes home to his mom, the mom immediately notices that he's been in a fight. And she's very angry about that. You can't be getting in fights. She is concerned about this next phase of his education. She doesn't want him going to school looking like Wakanda. And she doesn't want him getting in fights. And she don't want him hanging around with bad crowds or what she considered troublesome crowds. That was the issue last season. And so they get into the discussion. He says that he went over to Nova's house, and he goes on to say what a friend and a confidant Nova has been to him, how when he had the incident with the cop, how he pissed his pants, and she covered him with her clothing so he wouldn't be embarrassed. And I couldn't read what she was thinking in that moment. It seemed like she would have been happy that he had such a bond with his sister, but instead she gets very angry and she chooses this moment to go and confront Nova. Correct? Let me see. She reads some of the things that Nova has written. She reads them out of the manuscript. And then she said, "Is this what you think about me?" Apparently, this colorism thing is very, very heavy between these women. Nova has been harboring resentments because of Charlie's light skin and because of her privilege, her perceived privilege because of her light skin. But a lot of it is because of her wealth as well. Charlie's mother had money, so she was raised differently than the people, than Ralph and Nova on the farm. So apparently it seems like she has got a lot of resentments. She resents this woman's, not only her privilege, but her light skin. Right? And then Charlie gets so hot, and she tells her that she wants her to stop the publication. Stop it now before I have to stop it for you. And Nova expresses to her, it's too late. The book is already in publication. In fact, she has hard copies in her house. I guess Charlie didn't even notice that Micha had the book in his hand when he came home. Anyway, yeah. So when Charlie hears this, she rips the paper. There's a paper picture. The picture that Ralph broke was of Charlie and Nova. So she had posted the picture back up by itself without the frame. And now she went and tore up the picture. So that picture was not going to survive this. And she storms out the door. Mm-hmm. Next thing we see is Vi is reading the damn book. Okay. So now Vi is reading the book. She's reading a little bit out loud. I don't know. Did they do it like a voiceover? I think we heard her reading the book, but I don't know if she's reading out loud or not. Anyway, she says, was trying to explain how she is a strong woman, but she didn't become a strong woman easily. How a strong woman was made out of her circumstances, particularly her circumstances with this husband of hers, Jimmy Deal. When she reads the words Jimmy Deal, how could she? Is her reaction. And the very last thing we see is Jimmy Deal is in town. He is the man. He is the stranger. He is checking into a hotel, asking about Vi's restaurant, and also saying his name. My name is Jimmy Deal. And that's where we ended. So it's an excellent episode. All of these episodes are always great. I love this show. And I'll see you guys next week.